It's a happy and bright Sunday afternoon, and all of us are welcome. It's going to be a two-course meal, and if we move, because we are going to run as fast as possible. Because I know some came in yesterday, and some definitely leave early today to their various destinations. My name is Comrade Aloysius Sata. I'm the chairman of Civil Liberties Organization, SouthEast. I'm also a journalist based in Anambra, and precisely. Um, I think we do the production of the, do I call this high table, or the facilitators, or whatever. Then, Ralph, where is Ralph? I think after this side, then you moderate the aspect of the journalist for a proper introduction, one, one by one. So let me handle this one. Am I doing well? So I've introduced myself. Behind me is the big guy in the house. This is Emeka Umeagbalasi, the masquerade behind Int'l Society. Is our chief governor. A round of applause. Immediately after is Professor James Kokolo. Most of
this professor should not be said publicly.
As a professor. Okay.
Prof is always a prof.
No,
whether associate or substantive.
Whether associate, whether doctor. Well,
prof is a
so
prof.
that you people
it can no people that. Jerry Kokolo is one of the leaders of Southeast based human rights and civil society activists. He's an academia and is a man of so many parts. That's Chidema just stepped out.
Yes.
So when she comes back, of course, one of our girls. Okay.
they wouldn't be with you.
Mr. Ayokoli, which all of you know as the Oga for Vanguard in the Southeast, but you may not know that is a board member of Int'l Society. So that's why. Okay, after Chifuana Ayokoli is Barrister Obianuju Igweli. Obianuju Igweli also is a lawyer practicing in Onitsha, and she holds a strategic position in the society as the head of
Civil Liberties and Rule of Law.
yes, she's the head of Civil Liberties and Rule of Law Department of Int'l Society. Another round of applause. Dr. Okezie Elechi, all the way from Ebonyi. Okay. Okezie Elechi is one of the leaders of Southeast-based human rights and civil society activists. Welcome.
PhD in. No, go on. No, I just for my sake. PhD, is it environmental? Environmental management, PhD.
Okay. Comrade Mokocha. Is it true, Elabi? Alozie.
Only that no Mokoji.
Culture. So it's one of us is in SBC at West. After culture, we have Comrade Nelson Nnannawafo. Nelson Nnannawafo is executive director, FERAD. I must say, Ogologo all the way from Abia State is one of us. After Nelson Nnannawafo, Comrade Int'l at the middle here is the Anambra State Chairman of Civil Liberties Organization. And the man on Comrade Chilos God sent. Chilos God sent is the Governor Igbo National Council. Another powerful comrade among us. So Barrister Chidinma, like I said, she has been the unseen hand behind the scene coordinating all these things. So you can excuse her. She has been very busy to make sure what we are doing here goes according to plan.
We are gender sensitive.
Yes. So Ralph, over to you. For the other set, fine. Then I think you take it line by line because there are some people who are not journalists among you. So just allow them to do the progression by themselves, one by one. After your own, then they take it like that.
Good afternoon, gentlemen. My name is Raphael. I write for Punch newspapers.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Njenje Media. I'm from IIC, Tablet. I greet everybody. I am Comrade Emeka Umeagbalasi. Thank you very much.
The man behind camera, oh yeah. You now.
We could have moved in fire somewhere.
Okay.
Good afternoon. My name is SouthEast from Insecurity. My name is Int'l Society. I'm going to chill. I work for this country. Indian doing our coordination.
What is she saying? I didn't hear her.
Comrade Mike Umeagbalasi is my name. Insecurity. And when some of our colleagues are still on their way, to what's wrong, I guess here they are the Thank you. So move on. Congress, Int'l Society.
It's okay.
To be the prayer by hour before we introduce Abatama.
So, I think,
Yes. Okay. As the spirit
We're a second society.
no, go on.
You don't infringe on people's rights.
No problem. No problem. Just give us
Like,
1 minute.
No.
Okay.
We have to sensitive.
Okay.
Let's continue what
It's okay. Good. It's okay.
Well, I'm here this right open the days of
That's why it is better. And maybe have it.
want to cry too. After all, it's a financial system.
So it's okay.
but lead us
Praise the Lord.
we have to take
Before we
side.
start, we have to observe in respect and honor of the death mother of our great leader, Mrs. Patricia Umeagbalasi, and his brother, brother Chino, who just recently died. May their souls and the souls of the faithful departed, through the mercy of God, rest in peace.
Amen.
May they rest in peace. Almighty God, we thank you for the good health, for all the good things you have put upon us. May all honor and glory be to our holy name. In Jesus' name we pray. We commit this gathering. Our intention is to ensure improvement of decent, principle, Governorship society in Igbo land. We are asking you to give us grace that whatever we articulate here, we actualize. In Jesus' name we pray. And whatever things we are going to present here, bring honor, glory, peace, progress, and prosperity. Through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen. Praise the Lord.
Okay.
All phones on silent, please.
So we are set together. Okay. Thank you so much once again, ladies and gentlemen of the media and the distinguished representatives of the civil society organizations in the Southeast. My sorry for the well, one of those things. Sorry for the. So, once again, thank you so much for coming, the members of the media, the print, the electronic, the web, the online, the audiovisual. So I want to use this opportunity to thank each and every one of you for coming. And I want to also use the opportunity to thank the leaders of the civil society in the Southeast, the chairman of CLO Southeast Zone, the chairman of Anambra State CLO, the chairman of Enugu State CLO, Comrade Zuro, who is on his way, my distinguished and respected team members of Int'l Society, Barrister Chidinma Udebunen and Anayokori, Barrister Guber, and so on and so forth. Now I'm not forgetting Chilos Gossent, Comrade Nelson Wapo, Dr. Okezie Kelechi, Samuel Kamanya Okuchiku Mochwane, and Chibes Wajiako, and my very good friend over there, Nelson and Alozie Wokocha. What we have today is very, very critical. We are looking at the the dicey situation we have at hand. One has to do with the importance of Anambra election taking place on 6th, or scheduled to take place on 6th November 2021. The second most critical issue here is the issue of agitation for self-determination, and it is generated insecurity in eastern Nigeria. And of course, the other issues of critical national importance, such as the recent attempt by some of our neighbors on the other side to demonize our own champions and canonize their own criminals. So these are the issues we are going to look at. And concerning the issue of agitation for self-determination, if we look at the first page of the text, we want to let the whole world know that it is not a crime to engage in self-determination. It is not a crime under international law and order. It is not a crime under the United Nations. It is not a crime under the African Union. And it is not a crime within the contemplation of numerous international groupings, including intergovernmental entities, governmental entities, and non-governmental entities. And even the Fourth Republic, the people we refer to as the the corporations, multinational corporations or entities. Of course, and among the social enterprises, like churches and what have you. So, the people you have here today are the seminal thinkers and leaders of civil society in the Southeast. The nimbles, the thinkers, the great minds, the people that are needed in the market where ideas are exchanged and when the need arises. These are the people addressing you today. And we make sure that we assemble them despite whatever it costs to get them assembled so as to address you internationally here. Just like I said, within the contemplation of international law, self-determination is the legal right, because we must have to understand when government is trying to criminalize frivolities and irrelevancies. And when government does not supposed to do so. Self-determination is the legal right of the people to decide their own destiny in international order. And the core principle of international law arising from customary international law. The international legality of self-determination is further recognized as a general principle of law and enshrined in numerous international human rights, humanitarian and security and defense treaties or pacts. For the avoidance of doubt, customary international law involves an aspect of international law embedded in the principle of custom. Along with the general principles of law and treaties, custom is considered by International Court of Justice, international jurists, United Nations, and its member states to be the primary sources of international law. Therefore, the collective right of a people to be born, exist, live, move, associate, develop, and worship peacefully in a specified territory, recognizing and respecting rights of others who same are all founded on international customs and traditions, and derogation of same by any member state or its part or an independent or state-backed armed opposition group is totally prohibited and punishable. This summarizes what self-determination means. For years, especially since 2015, the state actors have tried to criminalize self-determination. Nations is a prominent member of African Union among other international and regional groupings or organizations. And within the contemplation, within the confines of the United Nations, rules are bound, processes are bound, procedures are bound. But what do we get? Here in the country, we have a government that tries to say that it was sleeping when it freely acceded to these important conventions, treaties, and charters. That's the situation we have. So we must have to use this opportunity to open the eyes of the frontiers, the mental frontiers, the thinking frontiers of our people, so as to understand the situation we have at hand. Now, I've given you the summed up concept or definition of what self-determination is. Funny enough, in the 1999 Constitution, in as much as the Constitution is not a perfect document, but that is the subsisting document with which the country is governed. Nigeria is founded on law. We have bodies of law, or body of laws, as case may be. Funny enough, in the 1999 Constitution, the self-determination abounds. One thing people do not know about self-determination: when you talk of self-determination, I have given you the right of the people to be born, exist, develop, and so on and so forth. And these rights are unimpeachable. And when you talk of self-determination within the contemplation of the 1999 Constitution, I'm not talking of other numerous treaty laws that Nigeria willingly acceded to. I'm talking of the 1999 Constitution. What you people may not know is the Constitution fully supports self-determination. If you go to chapter 2 of the Constitution, and before going to that chapter 2, one thing you must know is that the Constitution is interpreted by way of spirit and letters of the Constitution, of the law. That's one side. Another thing you must know about Constitution is that Constitution is enforceable through two ways. It is either it is morally enforceable or it is justiciable enforceable. Very important. If a governor is impeached today of being immoral, you don't need to go and get a court judgment before you impeach him. And the ability of a governor to fulfill all his obligations imposed on him, making him to first of all seek to present himself before the electorate so as to be elected, making him to be elected, and making him to be sworn in, and making him to take oath of allegiance and the oath of allegiance and office, as case may be. It is who the governor, that governor becomes addressed as His Excellency, to the extent of his ability to do all that. And we are talking about morality. Corruption today, another name for corruption is immorality. It is only somebody who is moral oriented that can go into corruption or corrupt practices. So if somebody is telling you, oh, like some lawyers would argue, oh, I'm the governor, the chapter 2 is not justiciable. When Gani was alive, Gani said, chapter 2 of the constitution, fundamental objectives and directive principles of state policy, is tantamount to be described as Nigerian Bible. For public office holder, the do's and don'ts of public office holder. We have 17,500 public office holders in Nigeria that are being paid, remunerated. So if you are the governor, if you are the deputy governor, if you are the president or vice, you are bound to do that, which is required of you in the constitution. And if you go to section 13 of the constitution, it's very clear. The heads of judiciary, the heads of legislative houses, and what have you. So the governor is expected. The governor, the judiciary head, the legislative head, and things like that, they are expected. They are commanded. Gani said, it is a commandment. It is a moral commandment. That's the way Gani put it when he was alive. So do not tell me that by virtue of section 6, subsection CC, that those things are not justiciable. It's not true. If they are not justiciable, they are morally justiciable. If they are not legally justiciable, they are morally justiciable. Therefore, go and do them. Now, the self-determination is pursued through 2 ways. What I'm saying, in other words, the self-determination has state actor dimension and non-state actor dimension. Within the context of state actor dimension, a governor is expected to do that, or a president or vice president, as case may be, is expected to do that, enlisted in the constitution from section 14 to section 21. So with the ability of a governor to do this, or a public office holder, or a key public office holder to do this, makes him self-determination compliant. And it is only on that account that the same governor or a public office holder can tell you that, look, Nigeria is indissoluble and indivisible. The failure of the leader, the governor or president or vice to do that is just an invitation to non-state actor agitation for the realization of such a self-determination. Therefore, the indivisibility or indissolubility of Nigeria is hinged on the ability of the leaders to fulfill that enlisted under 2 of the Constitution, fundamental objective and directive principles of state policy. And they are tied to that. Is the only way you can invoke section 2, subsection 1 of the Constitution, talking about indivisibility and indissolubility of Nigeria. And our leaders are not doing it. And what are those things? Very simple. Help me get it. What are those things? Let me read it out. The social contract. Some people argue that the Nigerian Constitution was modeled after American Constitution. Some aspect, to an aspect. Now, you like the governors, the leaders are expected to 17,500 public office holders who squander 2 trillion naira every year in remunerations. They squander 2 trillion naira every year in remuneration from public funds, both borrowed and generated. So, in that context, you have, if you go to section 14 of the Constitution, it talks about promotion as a leader, ensure democracy, social justice, and inclusiveness. You cannot govern Nigeria, a country that is heterogeneous. You can't govern it homogeneously. Nigeria must be governed pluralistically. Nigeria is a plural society. You can't do that. And you must have to ensure peaceful coexistence, diversity, and inclusiveness. It's very clear. So if you look at section 14, like I said, it's talking about inclusiveness, social justice, democracy, and what have you. Section 15, unity and faith. peace and progress, and the abolition of corrupt practices and abuse of power. Section 16, pursuit of national prosperity, economic growth and development, and the equitable distribution of same. Section 17, freedom, equality and justice. Section 18, provision, social accessibility, social affordability of equal and quality education to all citizens of education age. Section 19, adhering strictly to having favorable foreign policy, or what we call citizen diplomacy, including respect for international laws and treaty obligations. 20, protection of the environment, including safety and security of its air, land, forest, and water. And 21, ensuring pluralistic protection, promotion, and preservation of Nigerian cultures, and prohibition of any religion as a state religion, as contained in the section 10 of the 1999 Constitution. Now, as a matter of fact, therefore, the failure of the public office holders to implement this is a fundamental breach of Section 2, subsection 1 of the 1999 Constitution, talking about indivisibility and indissolubility of Nigeria, and a serious threat to self. That is what is happening. That is exactly the situation we have on the ground. Then, having said that, I have mentioned it that Nigerian Constitution, by this explanation, supports self-determination. We don't need to take a recourse only to the African Charter of Man and People's Rights. The Nigerian Constitution has supported it. Likewise, African Charter, signed, ratified, and domesticated by the government of Nigeria in 1983. Then, coming to what is happening in the Southeast, we are investigators with global track record. It's not hidden. We are researchers. What researchers see today may take other minds 20 years to see what researchers see today. That is the school of thought we belong. We are people of statistics. We are statisticians. We may not speak professorial grammar, but we finish you up with statistics. And if you are a non-entity professor, you escape to the back door. And we hold the stage. That's who we are. The people gathered, they are statisticians, investigators, and researchers. And therefore, we are in the know of the situation we have in the eastern Nigeria. So now, the summary of the whole thing is that the summary of the happenings in eastern Nigeria is that people took a recourse to self-determination because of the failure of the government. Now, whether street protest, picketing, night vigil, rosary procession, and what have you, they are all ingredients of democratic free speech. And if you want to, under the international law, there are procedures and processes through which they can be policed or managed. You don't police democratic free speeches by opening fire. Or splashing people with acid substance, or abducting people and disappearing them. No. Within the contemplation of international law, there are rules and processes and procedures through which democratic free speeches like processions, protests, and what have you can be managed or can be policed. The forces that are designated for that are specially trained forces who make use of rubber bullets, batons, water cannons, and so on and so forth. Non-lethal tear gas at extreme, that is I thought according to the stage, and even what do they call tassas is also part of the instrument. But you have a stage where that can be applied. Not live bullets, not wounding, not maiming, not abduction. And Nigerian government have taken a recourse to those crude and age of the year tools for policing democratic free speech. And that is why, yet, the agitators that, the non-state actor agitators that went into this line of activism, we have a record that from 2015 to 2017, they were shouting, protesting, singing, processing for night vigil and what have you. And the security forces were shooting them, killing them. We have records here that within that 2 years, that is 2015 to 2017, not less than 480 of them, including numerous members of SouthEast, Eastern population who are unarmed and the defenseless, who are killed, shot and killed. And over 700 others shot and terminally injured. Hundreds disappeared. Several hundreds arrested or abducted and remain unaccounted for detained for several years without trial. Scores of others, if not dozens or hundreds of others, disappeared till date. It was the totality of these. Now, you look at the statistics on the casualty figure of the state actors during that period. The statistics were asymmetrically infinitesimal. Now, you look at another statistics. When the Nigerian government forced the agitators into violent self-defense, starting from 2020, from January to today, statistics are found. Over 600 killed, 600 persons killed, civilians killed, 550 of them defenseless and unarmed, 50 of them members of armed agitators. On the side of now, unlike before, now you have shocking statistics from the state actors, security forces, losing less than 400 between January and this period. So you find out that it was the Nigerian government poor approach. A problem with Nigerian government is problem of incorrigibility, problem of cluelessness. You don't know and you don't want to know. You think you know it all, whereas you know nothing. Apart from cocking and shooting gun, you don't know anything. You don't want to learn. And that has been responsible for what is happening. So Nigerian government, in summation, is responsible for pushing the agitators into violent self-defense. Violence is divided into two: offensive and defensive violence. Then, Nnamdi Kanu, the Nigerian constitution is very clear. I'm very glad that lawyers are here. The Nigerian constitution is very clear. Trial of a person does not mean arresting the person, arraigning him in court, and dumping him in prison custody ad infinitum. That is not what the Constitution says. No matter the gravity of the offense alleged, if you think that Nnamdi Kanu has committed the highest atrocity, the law says put him on trial, give him fair trial, give him fair hearing, assemble your witnesses, convict him if you have unassailable evidence. Whereby you don't have, do not subject him to prosecutorial vindictiveness. Free him, discharge and acquit him. Don't keep him in detention ad infinitum. It's just for purpose of arraigning him. You have arraigned him, and that's all. no trial, no fair hearing, no time, no access to his family, to his lawyers, and what have you to enable him to no granting of him right to use his own language on the other civil liberties attached. And that is the situation we have at hand here. So what we are saying is that Nigerian government must discharge and acquitting Nnamdi Kanu. That is to say, releasing him unconditionally. Because it does appear that the government is rigmaroling in absurdities and frivolities. How many months now? The last time, how many months? How many years? This time around, how many months? You've not subjected the young man to proper trial. It is as if we don't have any case against him. So why are you holding him, causing confusion, creating tensions and fears? Release him unconditionally, or try him within the contemplation of the Constitution. It's very clear. The Constitution is very clear on this in Section 35 and Section 36. Okay, I will use this opportunity to point out what Attorney General of the Federation said. It's very valuable. Nnamdi Kanu, I don't use the word the others, I use agitators. Nnamdi Kanu and his fellow agitators kill the security agencies, burn houses, do this, do that in 2021. And as a result, the organization was proscribed in 2017. Is it not funny? Lawyers say that's interpretation. So how can you punish somebody retroactively? And the Constitution in Section 36(11) of the Alabama is against that. The Constitution is very clear. You cannot try somebody and find a person guilty over an act committed when, as at the time the act was committed, it was not contained in a written law as an offense. You proscribe the agitating group, a mainstream agitating group in 2017 out of malice and hate. In 2021, you now give reason for proscribing, saying that activities they did in 2021 led to their prosecution in 2017. That's funny. So, and that is why we are saying that the agitators, it was the government of Nigeria that forced the agitators into violent self-defense. We are not saying here that resort to violence, offensive violence is approved. In fact, we are pacifists. We belong to the school of pacifism. Modified, because if you go to concept of pacifism, you have categories. We belong to that says don't take a recourse to offensive violence. But if you are pushed to the wall, you can defend yourself. That explains why a reverend father can defend himself in his office if he is under attack. It is also there in the criminal code and penal code, right to self-defense. So then coming to Anambra election. Elections, human rights are beyond boundaries, cultures, territories, countries, and what have you. Even the areas that UN designate as stateless territories and stateless, inhabited by stateless citizens. Are we aware of the existence of that? That there are 10 million stateless citizens in the world under the UN system. So, elections, human rights are beyond boundaries and what have you. There are no gray areas for any form of social activities, social quest, for instance, quest for self-determination. Because the beginning of the movement for statehood, regionalism, confederacy, or what have you, start with what? Election. Plebiscite is a form of election. Referendum is a form of election. Formative statehood election is also a form of election. For instance, for the agitators, either Yoruba agitators or Eastern Nigeria agitators, assuming the UN tomorrow orders a referendum, decide to determine the status in conjunction with the government of Nigeria, decide to determine the status or future of Eastern Nigeria, what will happen? The first gate in that is what? Referendum. So the issue of opposing election is like opposing human rights. Especially when election is a staggered one that does not constitute any threat to the issue in contention. Because I must have to say it boldly, the tactics that are being used today, we must have to be very careful so that such tactics do not boomerang tomorrow. If a referendum is called for in Eastern Nigeria or in Yoruba land, let's say Eastern Nigeria, what do you think Nigerian government will do? They will support everybody. So don't you think you are giving them an expo? And you know one thing about referendum, once the yes vote under the UN system, if the UN says 51% carry go, like we have seen it done in many countries, Scotland, and at the end of the day you get 48% as carry go, those who want referendum, and maybe 49% as those who do not want referendum. That is the end of the whole struggle. That is why we need to be very careful. So having said that, my brothers and sisters, the importance of Anambra election is what we are trying to point out. There is no reason why Anambra election should be tinkered with. The agitators, we have solidarity with them. We've defended them. We've secured the release of many of them. In the case of Obibo, out of 550 abducted and disappeared, we got 400 freed, and 130 something are still unaccounted for. Likewise, the killings in the Southeast and the South since January. We have been taking records. We have risen in strong defense of the disappeared, the abducted, the tortured, the maimed, and so on and so forth. Because what we are doing, we are human rights and democracy organizations, and we are empowered by the processes and procedures under United Nations system, and also processes and procedures contained in the 1999 Constitution and the African Charter on Human and People's Rights. So that is what we have to say about Anambra election. Again, the agitators recently, a few days ago, made a statement, like in the correct words of some people, analysts, threatening Anambra election. Sit at home for 7 days. Anambra election is fixed for 6th. And you said by 4th. Sit at home till 10th. That's Anambra election in jeopardy. And I don't know, we have to be bold to say it. Now, what is the significance? Like professor is here and there's so many in the university. When they teach you, they say, what is the significance of this thing you put here? Or this thing you have said? What is the significance of that sit at home? What are the consequences of that sit at home if it does happen? Now we understood clearly, we don't mince words. We understood clearly the origin of the crisis in Imo State. It is not as if that Hope Uzodinma was found killing people as an ordinary person, terrorizing people as an ordinary person. It's because of the way he came in. And at that point, the battle line was drawn between the agitators and the young man. And if you ask them why, they said because of the way he came in, those who installed him. The question now is, with respect to this sudden announcement of Anambra, I mean, where are we going? Where are we coming from? Is it not correct to say that we are breeding ground for the same people we are running away from to take over? Because let me tell you this express implication of that sit-at-home thing. What constitutes clear breakdown of land order? Very simple. It can be caused by sit-at-home. In the contemplation and interpretation of the law and federal government. If, for instance, the day of sit-at-home, like that particular system of November, movements branded, commuters deserted, public transport deserted, everywhere deserted, to the extent that INEC cannot convey electoral materials, to the extent that even INEC adult staff cannot come out. The only people you see on the road are armed security personnel. So what do you think happened? That is a total breakdown of law and order. I think I have a lawyer here and the others. And the election cannot take place. Even if you want to rig, you can only rig when there are semblances of people moving and what have you. But in this case, election cannot take place. And what will happen? That is state of emergency. And who will be the first victim? People of the SouthEast. The second victim, Governor Umeagbalasi of Anambra State. If you look at the Constitution very well, Section 305 of the Constitution, there is nowhere it says this is when federal government can declare state of emergency. There is nowhere it says federal government can declare state of emergency retroactively or retroactive happenings, or something that things that happened in the past, or 2 weeks ago, or 3 months ago, or 4 months ago. Which means the act itself, which is total breakdown of law and order, the announcement will come, state of emergency, and somebody we may not know, imposed. Then if there are semblances of movements, this, that, then that would be an opportunity to digitally and manually write the result. In fact, just like we are sitting on this table, the result will be written and produced on this table and on the table, and the declaration made. So these are the far-reaching consequences and the implications of such things. So our appeal to our brothers is that I have always advised them that nobody knows it all. In fact, I do not know, Prof, is it Aristotle that said the more you learn, the more you discover that you know nothing? Yeah. Socrates. So you must have to trade from time to time. Trade in the market of ideas, where ideas are exchanged. You give what you have. You take what you do not know. In fact, for lawyers who address themselves as learned, if you want to define the meaning of learnedness in quote, it is a process whereby you seek to know what you do not know. And having succeeded in seeking to know what you do not know, you add it to what you know already. It becomes learning, or let me use the word, learnedness in quote. It is not complete until transmitted to what? To third party. The full learning process is completed. That is the word learn. When the lawyers by the side of the press conference, you people will find, we meet me. Eh? I'm giving you an expo. So that is the process. So nobody knows it all. So where you do what you do not know, you ask, you consult. I want to use this opportunity to tell you, we are students of history. Prof here is a philosopher. He knows the histories of independent quest for independence, statehood, and what have you, from Zanana Gusmayo of East Timor in now formerly Indonesia, which is now a republic. Go and ask, check the history of the biography of Zanana Gusmayo. From Nehru Gandhi and Mahatma Gandhi in India to Dr. Jonas Savimbi of Angola to John Garang of Sudan, and so on and so forth. These are thinkers. Self-determination or quest for nation is not a child's play. It's business of the noble, the business of the lettered. The letteredness for you to be able to understand. For you to be able to understand the nitty-gritty, the fundamentals of this quest we are talking about. So we appeal to our brothers, do the thing. We are in a society where we have whatever that it takes to. So it's a matter of our people to our brothers and sisters to understand this and persuasively follow suit. The coming Anambra state election, we are not here, we are civil society organizations, we rarely do this. Once in a while we do this, and whenever we do that, we do it like as in this international press conference. You will know that, I mean, you were really addressed and talked to. Now, what are we talking about in the Anambra election? Anambra election has history of, have you heard of dead votes and living votes? We have dead votes and living votes. It is not every vote that is a living vote. Anambra has the history of dead votes and living votes. What are dead votes? When you go and massively engage in massive thumbprinting on ballot papers, massive uploading of procured PVCs, uploading them on the day of election as validly cast vote within the context of syndicate or syndication, then they do not reflect the true electoral wishes of the people in a particular environment. These are dead votes. For instance, in Anambra State in 2003 Anambra Governorship election, over 1 million votes was awarded to the person INEC declared as winner. And after 3 years, those votes were invalidated and they really rested in pieces by Enugu Court of Appeal and the Anambra Election Petition Tribunal. And the 235,000 living votes were resurrected and they given to the due winner. In 2007 illegal governorship election, 1,093,000 votes was awarded to the person that INEC declared a winner. Now the INEC said that 900,000 people came out to vote, but the same INEC awarded 1,093,000 as against 900,000 people that came out to vote, according to INEC. In reality, only 200,000 people came out to vote. And unfortunately, the court declared the election that the election ought not to have been held. So these two instances produce what we call dead votes. Then what are the living votes? Living votes are votes that generate from people that are not product of crooked biometrics. If you look at Anambra State, instances about, apart from 205,000 awarded to the winner by court, living votes, in 2010, The former governor of Anambra State returned to his seat with 97,520 living votes only, out of 301,000 votes cast. In 2013, the outgoing governor of Anambra State vote out of 432,000 vote cast, living votes. In 2017, the same governor won with a mixture of living and dead votes to the tune of 234,000 out of 400 and something thousand vote cast, and so on and so forth. So Anambra State has had a history of mixture of living vote era and the dead vote era. Now, coming to this election now, I want to let you know that if this election is to be conducted, the total number of votes, living votes, expected from the electorate of Anambra State should not be more than 500,000, out of which a winner emerge. Anambra State right now have total voting population of 2.5 million plus, and the PVC holders of 2.1 million to 2.2 million plus. But based on this situation, tensions, fears, and what have you, and judging from what happened in the immediate past, the total number, the maximum number of votes, living votes, expected from Anambra State election is 500,000. From which the winner will emerge. Maybe the winner will score 200,000 or 300,000 as case may be. Any declaration by INEC, which is what they are planning to do, to say the total number of people that voted is 1.5 million, then wahala don dey. It is expressly a rigged election. And out of this 1.5, they can award their preferred candidate 1.2 million votes. These are technicalities involved, salient realities involved in Anambra election. So that is why we are alerting the world that the total number of votes expected from Anambra State, if voting actually takes place, will not be a maximum of 500,000. It's recorded here. Then INEC Department of ICT has become a hotbed of scientific rigging. You people may not know the trends and patterns and trends of election rigging in recent times. And of course, the Anambra State is always a case study. The way they rig election nowadays is that they will start by recruiting, procuring PVCs. At the end of it, they will have a link to INEC department in charge of ICT. The day of election, the ICT servers of INEC will upload the PVCs as validly cast votes. For purpose of bamboozling the likes of Barry Sobianuju, who will take the matter to election petition tribunal, they will make a separate arrangement. According, they employ mathematicians, so including some professors. They are not among them, I beg. Sorry about that. Including some professors who will now retire in big hotels to be able to compute. Anambra now has 5,720 polling units. The number of uploaded PVCs. That is a perfect. In fact, they did it in 2017 in Anambra State. When the thing shocked them, INEC, after announcing the result, they further said, "You are thinkers, analyze this thing for us." They further said that 8,540 accredited voters did not vote. How possible is it? Some accredited voters did not vote. So what happened was that the luck ran out of ran against them, and they couldn't finish. Those people they hired to to print to match ahead couldn't. So they now declare them as accredited voter who did vote. So that is a strategy in Anambra. But the good news is that for stakeholders, party agents, election monitors, I've always had an issue with those who are packed on election day, who will tell you they are monitoring the election. What are you monitoring? How can you monitor election that is already rigged? If you want to start from the process, from the electioneering, to expose all these things. So, but for in all fairness to them, for election monitors, stakeholders, and what have you, the most effective way of checkmating INEC and their goons on the other side, with respect to this scientific rigging, is the from EC8As. In each of the polling units lies from EC8A. From EC8A, 8As are where the first form, first among equal, where election results are entered from the polling booth. And it is expected to be signed by all the party agents and security representatives. So if the stakeholders, assuming if Anambra election is going to be held, what the stakeholders are expected to do, we are giving them a fundamental expo, is to monitor the movement of from EC8As by first of all ensuring that in each of the polling units, voting and counting of results will not take place without the brought electoral materials being accompanied by what? From EC8As. At the end of the election, then result must be entered on those from EC8As. Then if you collect all the from EC8As, because each party agent is entitled to a copy, if the agents are able to and stakeholders are able to collect all the from EC8As and tidy them up, then it will be very, very difficult for these people to have their way, to be able to upload what they have planned. So that's a key area, a very important area of checkmating the rigging with respect to INEC, and of course monitoring of INEC ICT. Then we have spoken on this thing, then we are rounding off. Out and give them money and all that, and by so doing, you are making them to sell their conscience. So this factor is the security agencies. They are not even, because when you talk of election rigging, when you talk of, you don't, if you look at insecurity, the way Nigerian security forces act with the rest of the national security advisor, a very very shocking statement saying that the president has ordered for massive, I'm quoting, for massive deployment of security agencies in Anambra, even if it means overwhelming the electoral environment with security agents. So that is the situation we have at hand. So it is despicable. You see, the state actors are supposed to be the calmers, romancing the voters, assuring them, dousing the tensions and fears created, and not hiding himself, threatening, and so on and so forth. Now, from our own projection, we are likely going to have more number of security agents in Anambra State than the number of people that come out to vote. So this is unacceptable. I don't know the particular school. I don't know the kind. I've been looking at the country where Nigerian security agents and agencies should go for the training, at least in civil military strategy. What is the purpose of militarizing the electoral process and democratic spaces? Rigging. Why are you threatening voters? Why are you giving them psychological tensions and fears and threats? You have 5,720 polling units, and you are threatening to overwhelm them with security. Who will vote? That one is for police, commissioner of police. So, Army has not announced his own. No. Navy has not done. Air Force, Civil Defense has not. DSS has not. So at the end of the day, you are going to have the number of security personnel outnumbering the number of people that come out to vote. Then the issue of asking the Anambra people to vote and vote conscientiously. This one is self-explanatory. We don't need to repeat it. The only thing we can say here is that the Department of Int'l Society in charge of democracy and good governance did a little research and found out that political parties in Nigeria are so weak and corrupt to be able to get their disciplinary and control mechanisms to be brought to their flag bearers to do the needful, as in their flag bearers' ability to get involved or to ensure input and output legitimacies. Input legitimacy is a process that brings you into office through electoral process. It can be input legitimacy or input what? Illegitimacy. If you rig an election, if you are rigged in, the input, the process of putting you in becomes input what? Illegitimacy. The output legitimacy is your performance in office. You have input legitimacy added to output legitimacy. You become a celebrated leader. That is why some people will always talk about P2V of Anambra State. From input legitimacy to output what? Legitimacy. So, but the Nigerian political parties are so weak and corrupt that they cannot even bring their disciplinary and control mechanisms on their flag bearers, except where some of them are lucky to have flag bearers with leadership charisma and quality, such as during the time of P2V in Anambra State. It wasn't the making of Apogas making, it was the person of P2V. Such at the time of Peace in Guber, although we call his own cabal push, it was cabal push that made him to be able to fix some important things in Anambra State. It wasn't PDP. It was because of circumstances at the person of Peace in Guber. Likewise, the case of P2V, such as our own governor and his Apoga. presently. You know, I'm always considerate. I don't want to go into that. Such as Mbad Nuju and the PDP then. Compare the two. So I think these are the things that people will have in mind to, why voting. Concluded. Then this one has to do with, what we have decided to do at the level of civil society in the Southeast is that, like, we must have to, and it's a task upon each and every one of you, especially those of you from Eastern Nigeria. We must have to rise up to identify people with potential, leadership potentials, people of nobility, people with built and imbued character. That wherever you have them in the position of authority, you will not regret having them in the position of authority. And what is playing out in Nigeria is that just like when we are doing civil society, this professor knows what I'm talking about. If you are not promoting a certain agenda, you are doomed as a civil society leader. And that is what is playing out today. So, if you look at these Pandola papers, we've looked at it. I can only be interested in Pandola papers if we have been able to find where it was statistically mentioned that Mr. Peter Obi was responsible for stealing Anambra public funds. And not only that he stole Anambra public funds, but that public funds, were allocated to certain international investment, criminal investment. In 2009, the leadership of the Int'l Society dragged into EFCC and the Inspector General of Police when they alleged that he laundered 250 million. And despite pressure, we stood our ground. And at the end of the day, the EFCC issued a clearance with the IGP. It was found out that Peter Obi, in his own character, his friend called him and said, vehicles for when he was looking for a way of buying vehicles, all these heads of parastatals and what have you. They said, we have this, but it's cash on delivery. Take this. Just like when he was buying cars, I remember somewhere where somebody was saying, he will call Innocent. Innocent will say, I will give you 20 to 1. He will call the other man for charity. He will say, okay, I will give you 20 to 2. Do you know what is 20 to 1? 20 to 1 is that you buy 20 cars. I dash you 2. So he was doing that. That was how he flooded every here and there with automobile during his own time. So that time we insisted, and at the end of the day, it was discovered that he wanted to buy cars or cash on delivery. Then he didn't know that some of the people with him were detractors and what have you. It's normal. So now this time around, we have investigated. In fact, if you look at that publication, it is what it is what it would, to the extent that they did not find anything. All they said that he violated he did not declare that he has $1 or $2 in America. And all that. He did not resign. And they kept hammering on that. Now I ask, I don't want to mention names. What about the czar of corruption in that part of the country? How come that report, so-called report, didn't capture the czar of corruption in that area? What about those other names mentioned? Why didn't EFCC extend invitations to them? Why was it only this person? So what we concluded is that we will not sit by and allow our own champions, who are very infinitesimal, very small in the market of nobility and credibility, to be criminalized or demonized, only to canonize their own criminals and getting them installed as leaders. We can't allow that. That is our position. If we had found in that report, provably, that this man stole Anambra money, $500 million, 2 billion naira, this, that, and it was located to this, we would have joined forces and said, look, you have to bring that one back and go in for it. But we cannot allow a situation where an innocent man is being wrong because of 2023 presidential election. And I want to tell you people, what we do not know is that a secret survey was commissioned recently, and it was handled by young intellectuals from that side. Go to Eastern Nigeria. We are talking about 2023 presidency. Conduct a research on personality profile of certain people. You know why people do not talk in Nigeria today? Because they have baggage. Both activists, both some of us that are well-known activists in our contemporaries, I won't mention names. I remember one of them. He talks. The next one, phone call will come. Ah, comrade, we saw this thing in the paper. We said, no, it can't be you, it can't be you, it can't be you. You're a man, you're a man. Why? The man will say, hey, I must have been misquoted, though. Okay, I thought as much. Don't worry, I'm fixing press conference or this thing on this so TV. You know, the man will just go there and say, I was misquoted. Because if he refuses, we show him, comrade, you see, in a Badagiri, in a Victoria Land, in this and all that. So, how many people have resolved to live clean life in Nigeria? That is the problem. So, and that is what they have been doing, and we will not allow that. So, after conducting the secret survey, it was found that the challenge, one of the top persons that will give them headache is, and of course, suddenly Pandora paper, involving 360 journalists. Although I'm not trying to, my friend, 60 prominent journalists worldwide, this, that, do this, this, that, without statistics. Suddenly, reports started coming out. They wanted they camouflage the report by mentioning some, and so we know where they are going, and we will not allow that.
very seminal presentation you have made to us. You particularly have followed you for a number of years, and I don't enjoy less all the reports I get from you. You may excuse me if I didn't listen carefully, but I just want to ask you, when you talked about, there was something you talked about on page 2, and that's in the third paragraph where it is titled Act of Stopping Election can boomerang in the time of possible referendum. What you said was akin to condemning any act that will lead to stopping that election. Then I listened carefully to hear you outwardly name it condemnation, or maybe declaring the sit at home on the 4th to the 10th, which you also alluded to is another way of targeting the Anambra Governorship election. I listened carefully to hear you use the word condemnation, but I didn't. So maybe I didn't hear very well.
Well, that's a nice question, and you know, we get refined every day, and we grow each and day. Do we have one house?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. I don't know whether you get the point in that area of boomeranging. The boomeranging we are talking about is that the elections and human rights are no gray area. They are sacred and sacrosanct. Beyond countries, whatever, culture, anything, they are the pillar, they are the foundation of anything, human rights, statehood formation, anything. And if you look at what is happening in this country, Nigeria has become Njoka Akanu. A friend of mine is answering a name, Njoka Akanu. That is Nigeria, where Nigeria is. What is being emulated in Nigeria is bad precedent. Bad precedent. This issue of stopping election, getting involved in killings and violence, the agitators are legitimately pursuing their right to self-determination. If you like, you call it quest for autonomy, regionalism, confederacy, statehood. But they are against, at least this latest statement, they are against holding of election in this particular territory. And it didn't start today. In 2007, they did it. 2017, they did it. And that is what we are saying, that sometimes we need to be very careful about certain decisions. Because what if a referendum is ordered tomorrow by UN? You know, we operate within the confines of United Nations system. There is nothing that you will do that will make you to become a recognized independent state outside the UN system. And what if it comes to referendum? And you know what is referendum? My prof mentioned Scotland and so many other places. Referendum is for people who say, for instance, we know that where there is a part of Nigeria, is it Cameroon or Dialaba, that went for that went for plebiscite in 1961.
No,
59. And the decision gotten from that plebiscite landed them where they are today. Am I wrong? So if a referendum is called under UN system, and which must be in conjunction with the Nigerian government as an existing territory, and the Nigerian government turns around and raises deadly forces, indulges in creation of tensions and fears, just as we are witnessing them today, indulges in import. You know, Nigerian government now import people. They export and import. If they want to do protest in any part of the world, they have the capacity to export. If they want to do protest or if they flood this thing, they have the capacity to import. So what if Nigerian government decide to import, terrorize, create fears and tensions? And you know that there is not, UN doesn't have a standby army. UN is like a confederacy, a loose union. It relies on the existing territory, sovereign territory, for certain strategic assistance or cooperation. The PVC is to be used in referendum and so on and so on, the census figure and what have you. And in the end, somewhere along the line, the whole thing boom along. What do you think will happen? What if at the end of the referendum, and the agitators and the supporters fail to get as a result of tensions, fears, or terrorization by the existing sovereign territory? What will happen? Once the referendum quest collapses, do you know the meaning in the contemplation of UN? No more. If you have fought for it for 100 years, that is the end. Instances are banned. We have data people, so it's not something that is reading. You can Google it and see it. So that is the point we are making. So that is why we encourage them to always assess the markets where ideas are traded. Nobody knows it all. So that when you want to do certain things, you consult. So coming to Anambra election, the issue of condemning, sit at home is part of democratic free speech. The demand for release of Nnamdi Kanu is legitimate. I have said it here. But what we are saying is that the application, the circumstances, the timing, the reasons is what we are talking about. Now, a number of people are going to have an important election that will make Anambra State. Let me say it clearly. In fact, if we fail in that election, Anambra will become a nomadic rainforest state. A nomadic rainforest state. That is simple. And the people we have are not pretending about it. So if the election does not take place on 6th November, two things are involved. I have explained it. If there is a seat at home, because it's like the issue of queue making. If you plan a queue and succeed, you become leader. If you fail, you go. So if you say sit at home from 4th November to 10th, for purpose of release of Nnamdi Kanu unconditionally, the question is, what if the federal government does not release Nnamdi Kanu? What will happen? Then Anambra election, how far? I have given you explanation, a very vivid and statistical and empirical explanation to that effect. Once that day of election, commuters, Allah, you know you are a grammar master. I don't know if I'm getting it. Commuters granted. Public transport or transportation or what have you, granted. Movement restricted. People nowhere to be found. How do you think that INEC will be able to transport the electoral material? And again, of course, the INEC had all staff and substantive staff nowhere to be found. That translates to total breakdown of law and order within the contemplation of the election fix. Because the election cannot hold. And what is the next thing? The federal government will declare state of emergency. And the people of the Southeast and South and the Anambra people will be the first victim. Second victim, Governor Willie Obiano is his cabinet. There is nowhere in the Constitution, in section 305, where it is stated that a president can declare state of emergency if it in the course of inability to hold the election, he will wait until the tenure of a governor expires because it is clear state of emergency. It's not there in the Constitution. And the act itself, which is total breakdown of law and order, has taken place and requires immediate action. So if you say, I'm not going to declare state of emergency because Anambra state election has failed to hold, I will wait for the governor. So what will happen if you wait for the governor's tenure to expire? What will you do as the president? So Eleke, it is not only when I use the word condemnation.
But the thing is very
That's the thing.
that is we are
Okay. What house?
Why presenting at the last end of the last issue made, what is mentioned about along adoption, killings of our brothers. We get figures. We wanted to get from where they adopted from. Is it from Enugu State or the entire SouthEast? We want to elaborate.
Okay, it's okay now. Okay. Okay. It's okay. From the beginning, if you listen to us carefully, we introduce ourselves as people of statistics. We introduce ourselves as investigators and researchers. If I forward to you the reports we have, you may not be able to finish reading them in 2 months. So what we have given you is the summary of what the work we have done. We have issued a series of reports. Even the way that is asking the question has been publishing them serially in his blog. We have the statistics contained in the 6th of July, 14th of July report, 14th of June report, 6th of July report, and so many, those we issued in August, September, October, and so on and so forth. We have statistics, for instance, by 14th of June, the total number of security forces, security personnel lost in the Southeast was 236. Now, since then till now, more 160 something have been added, making the total number to be not less than 400. In our previous report, we have our people who have done that is for security district. Then coming to our people who have abducted, in our previous report, we captured them. We have abducted from Anambra, for instance, the state with the highest number of abductions and killings is Imo State. We said it in our report. In Imo State, between January and this period, not less than 200 unarmed and defenseless persons have been killed. Remember the Bishop Obinna, is he hidden? The issue of Federal Medical Center is not hidden. In Ebonyi is also part of it. In Rivers is part of it. Abia is part of it. Abia, Rivers, Imo, Ebonyi, Anambra. The state that is somehow free from killing but not free from abductions is Delta State. We have statistics even at Ebonyi, Cross River. So we have been, so at a point from the last update, the total number of people abducted or arrested in the Southeast by security forces since January is over 3,200 to 3,300. But remember what we said, abduction and arrest does not mean that all of them are still in. When you conduct an unlawful arrest, whether the person is freed or not, it is an unlawful arrest. So now, out of this figure, not less than 2,000 are still detained in various places. I gave you statistics on how we freed, in conjunction with other comrades, freed 416 from Obi. 416. And we are estimating that over 100 and some families are still calling us. In fact, the pathetic case is the case of the one we freed in conjunction with others in July or thereabout.
That guy has not the guy that is level of the guy which is located there. Because I mean, the army, that's why I told you that those people are adopted by army, 90% of them cannot be located. Killed, alive, or things like that. But this is the those it's just like keeping somebody here, or keeping somebody, keeping other people. That's that of prison you can do. In fact, the people that we are accomplished and detailed for several months at Anambra in Abuja, that is Anambra is the important of central video of FBI. That's a carry of lawyer. When those guys are you can't go there. Even if you understand, some places they don't get it. Until 10 of them we are learned
in upper area court, barrister, upper area court in Abuja, in Kefi, upper area court. People are arrested and taken to Abattoir in Abuja, that is force CID. 10 of them were arraigned in upper area court in Kefi, Nasarawa State, and remanded in Kefi prison. And the lawyer got there. It was when the lawyer got there that they told him that even 57 of them were killed in the night. So that is the situation. So we have statistics. 300 of them, I don't know whether they are killed. Those people taken to Benue State. A lot of them in Nasarawa, in Niger, and so on and so forth. I hope I have answered your question, sir. Yes, sir. Moderate.
Those guys concurred with
Yeah, okay.
so we are through this aspect. Unless okay.
Okay.
So in a nutshell, I think we've done, yeah. Thank each and every one of us for participating. It's been a nice house, I must say. We believe also as comrades in the struggle and our allies that you do justice to the report in your various platforms. So the TV people can take the entire truth.
Yeah, continue on.
Ezra prayed before, so I will force him to pray. He can't just pray. He was close.
Praise the Lord. In the name of the Father, Almighty Father, we thank you for the peaceful atmosphere you have given us to deliberate on the way forward of our state and country. We are asking you to give us the grace that all the things you have articulated here will be actualized and they will ensure the peace, progress, and especially the success of Anambra November 6th governorship election. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Asking you to guide our facilitator, all the human rights leaders in the SouthEast, to give them the grace to continue to sacrifice towards the betterment of the society. all this we ask through Jesus Christ our Lord.
Amen.
For joining mercy, just settle home to our respective destination. In Jesus' name we pray.
Amen.
May the grace
May the grace of our Lord Jesus Christ, the love of God, and the fellowship of the Holy Spirit be with us now and forevermore. Amen.
surely
God's goodness and mercy shall follow us all the days of our lives, and we shall dwell in the house of God forever and ever. Amen.
the Father and of the
Son
Son
and the Holy Ghost.
Take your seat, I beg, for 5 minutes. Thank you very much.
You must open it. You must open it. Because you know this business is very flourishing now.